The last few years has been eye-opening for the dwarves in the Hall of Shores. They have lost so many kinfolk, yet gained so much. A new declaration of war had been signed. There was no turning back now. The dwarves had struck first, launching a surprise attack on the distant civilization, the goblins to the east. A beast of legend emerged from the depths, a massive warthog-shaped horror that tore through the fortress, leaving dwarf carcasses scattered throughout the halls. Yet even as the fort mourned its losses, the war escalated outside. A raiding party sent to a distant goblin city returned with a prize beyond imagination. A fierce and unbroken dragon. This beast's arrival marked the turning point. A change in the morale of the war. The foe was stronger than the dwarves had previously thought. The fortress prepared for battle, the fate of these ocean shore-bound dwarves now intertwined with that of fire and hate. Our story starts in late winter of the year 112. After spending some time digging out our cavern, I noticed it had been a while since the goblins had last attacked us, so we're going to take the battle to them. Sending out 2 squads of our most able-bodied dwarfs clad in iron armor, we went to attack the fortress of the Shady Steppes, hopefully prompting the goblins who live there and their civilization to send a counterattack. So our dwarves set out on the raid mission that would take multiple days. After returning, we found out there were only 2 goblins that were killed in the raid, so we sent out our 3rd militia group to go settle the fortress, granting us another land under our dominion and expanding our borders as a civilization. The goblins did send a counterattack, but for some reason, the group that they brought retreated as soon as they entered our borders. Now what they did do was send 3 thieves to our fort. The dwarves just figured it was a scouting party, with a larger force soon to come. The 3 thieves rushed into our fortress where they were promptly met with grizzly bears and dogs who had been trained for war. These thieves did not last very long as their pools of blood littered our hallways and our front entrance. Mid-spring of 113, with the goblins not sending a whole lot of troops to fight, I decided to attack and declare war on a new goblin civilization, hoping that they will come and wage actual war against us instead of sending scout parties and thieves to attack us constantly. Below in our caverns, a forgotten beast named Zagstock was fighting 10 reptilian folk who had tried to claim the cavern for themselves. The giant spider-like creature fought with them till the end, taking several life-threatening wounds from the spears and swords of the reptilian folk. After the battle, the forgotten beast crawled into the water and passed away alone and cold, bleeding out into the underground ocean. Early summer of 113, the humans came with another large trade caravan, where we traded them a huge surplus of barrels of prepared meals and bins of finished goods made of bone. We traded it for new seeds, pile of fish, and library materials, leaving them with a profit of about 43,000 value. Just on the surface to the right of our trade post, we started a new construction, which will be a 3-story building with gardens at the bottom where we can now grow new plants and not just the dwarven staples like plump helmets and dimple cups. A forgotten beast. Its massive form squeezed through a fissure down below in our caverns, its gray jagged scales scraping across the stone. It was a warthog, its bloated belly a hideous sight, and its eyes held the most terror. Eyes that gleamed with hunger and malice. As it crept upward, the beast's hooves clattered on the stone steps, moving ever closer to the dwarves above. When it reached the lower levels where the miners brought their ore to the smelters, the horror began. The dwarves barely had time to scream as the beast unleashed thick and sticky webs, ensnaring them where they stood. Trapped and helpless, they were dragged toward its maw, their blood staining the stone floors and staircases below them. The warthog beast was relentless. Its strength seemingly endless. 37 dwarves fell in its path, crushed under its weight or caught in its webs. Their bodies were strewn across the stairs they had so often climbed with oars in their hand. As the battle dragged on, the beast's strength began to wane. Its blood, thick and black, oozed from countless wounds from our dwarves. Pulling on the stone stairs, it faltered, its massive form slowing. And with a final shuddering gasp, the warthog beast collapsed. It bled out there on the stairs, its body heaving one last time before it lay still. The beast, Ebra, the scaly warthog that had crawled from beneath our caverns, had taken many dwarves. Her carcass was hauled to the Heroes' Hall, where a statue was made depicting the animal. This is going to be a day that the dwarves of the Hollow Shores will never forget, and soon they went about burying their kinfolk and holding their rituals over the coffins. Soon after the disaster that was the Forgotten Beast, Ebra, our dwarves finally returned after attacking the new goblin civilization. With them, they brought back 4 beaked dogs, but also a cave dragon. Now, this was very interesting to our dwarves because this means that the enemy had dragons in their possession, tamed beasts that could easily destroy our fortress. And with our lowered population due to the Forgotten Beast Ebra, this was not a good sign. The good news was that we had at least one of them. How many they had, we don't know yet. But our fortress needed to prepare for the fact that the goblins even had these beasts. The goblins must have figured out that we had stolen one of their dragons because soon after our militia arrived back with it, a vile force arrived. Now this was only about 5 or 6 crossbow goblins, but clearly they were searching for something. Quickly, they sprinted across our territory and made their way into our trap hallway. Now, our trap hallway has stood for 13 years now. It is a proven, reliable way to cut down our enemies, and our traps did their job. Dismembering goblins, disemboweling them, and just breaking the morale. Quickly, they retreated, but one of them was heavily injured and moving slowly. So, the Halls of Glee, who had just returned with one of the dragons, set out to cut down these goblins as they fled. Managing to catch the one that was heavily injured, the rest of them made it out. Hopefully, they will go home and tell of the horrors that they found here, and they will send a larger army next time. Early autumn of 113, the Minotaur named Engo arrived. She ran so fast across our territory, we actually couldn't get the gate closed. So she made it into the fort using the front door, where quickly she was met with our dogs, giant black bears, and grizzly bears. Surprisingly, it wasn't the giant black bear Grimfang, or the other giant black bear who has yet to get a name that ended up killing the Minotaur, but just a dog. The dwarves were all surprised by this, but a foe had been avoided, and that carcass was brought to the Heroes' Hall, and a statue of the Minotaur Engo was built in its depiction. The animals on watch didn't have any time to sound the alarm before a were-giraffe lunged into the front entrance. Its elongated neck and gnarled limbs moved with unnatural speed. The dwarves soon discovered that the werebeast was not just an unknown foe, but a former member of the Hollow Shores, who had returned to wreak havoc among the halls once again. Attis Evist, a spinner, was infected years ago and expelled from the fort. She had made her return. Grimfang the bear charged forward, but the werebeast was too quick and too strong. The clash was brief yet brutal, the bear's mighty claws raking fur and flesh before the were-giraffe's jaws clamped down on Grimfang's throat. The dwarves could only watch in horror as their beloved guardian Grimfang fell. His life spilled out in a pool of blood. Grimfang is honored with a masterfully carved golden statue in the Heroes' Hall. The beast Attis, the were-giraffe, lies next to him, her image carved in silver to show the dwarves the horrors of the world outside. A few levels below, we started construction on a new dining hall. With copper tables and beautifully crafted thrones, I think the dwarves are really going to enjoy this, and it is a huge upgrade from the previous dining hall. While construction on the dining hall was going, 2 thieves broke into the front gate. They thought they had gotten past our bears, but that just simply wasn't the case. The grizzly bears and giant black bear mauled these 2 thieves before they could go anywhere else, chasing them room from room until they were no longer. Another vile force attacked, this time only 5 goblin crossbowmen. Clearly, the goblins had not received our message saying, "Bring more," and they still sent 5. Just like the last ones, these ones were all too eager to find themselves in our trap hallway, where they were quickly cut down by weapon traps and stonefall traps. As they crawled over their friends' remains and body parts, they just found themselves in another trap. This time there were none who were too injured or too slow, and our military wasn't able to get any of them. Hopefully this time when they arrive back home, they decide to come back with more. Fighting these goblin parties of 3 or 5 is getting a bit boring for our dwarves, who have spent years and years now training. In a brief month of peace, we decided to start building a new temple room. This is going to house 6 temples total, which should all be temple complexes once we add artifact rooms to increase their value. This temple is going to be full of copper altars and copper statues due to the fact that we have over 2,500 bars of copper just kind of laying around. Again, the humans arrived and we traded for seeds and items that we could melt down into iron, such as iron anvils, or their large armor and weapons that our dwarves cannot use anyways. We also traded for a little bit of lumber. At the end, the humans profited over 33,000 in value. To the Hall of Shores dwarves, this trade was more like an offloading of useless finished goods and prepared foods. The Hall of Shores has seen a very interesting last 2 years. Now we are coming up on the year 120 in this playthrough, which with that comes another 10-year video, and also a video combining the last 20 years together, so that you guys can watch the entire hour and a half worth of episodes that we will probably have at that point. So really quick, I would like to say thank you so much to the almost 1,500 of you that have subscribed to my channel recently. My channel has kind of blown up in like 500 subscribers recently due to the Hall of Shores playthrough that we're going through. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of work that goes into these little videos. So like I said, I'm a smaller YouTuber. Any likes, comments, or subscribes helps me out a ton, and I truly appreciate you guys. And I really hope to see you in the next future projects that I have coming up, and I hope that you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. So with that being said, I will see you in the next video. You're going to see some stuff popping up right here. Peace out.